Great day, everyone. Ed Dudley coming from the USA over in Durham, North Carolina. And I am excited I'm always excited because I got my beautiful girlfriend over in South Africa hanging out with me today. How you doing, Charmaine?
I'm fabulous, Zulu Ed. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. How was your week?
It was flipping awesome, actually. It was a good week. Lots of things to get around, but just being in your company and being in the Ubuntu house is just magical.
I
And we
like
have a
that.
phenomenal speaker, so can't wait
I
to
can't
get this
wait.
party started.
Well, let's not even wait. Let's just bring him in and have just an amazing conversation. So let's bring him on in. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good night. It all depends on where you're tuning in from.
I have to say hello, boyfriend. I have so many of you good-looking guys. Aren't I
Wait a minute, so you're
blessed?
cheating on me?
No, I mean, I have one in the USA and one in South Africa. Let me just flash my wedding ring while I'm here.
Is that even real?
Absolutely, yes. You've met him.
Oh, wow.
No, it's just incredible being here with you guys.
Yeah.
Beautiful faces, but more importantly, beautiful hearts, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Prof, before I get you to open your mouth and drop the pearls of wisdom, right? I do want to share with the community as to what an incredible human you are. Besides being a professor, an amazing dad, an author, a music lover, and played such an instrumental role in freeing South Africa. I have to say, Zulu Ed, I'm in love with his mind because he's
Mhm.
like a wealth of wisdom. But more than that, he says things what other people are thinking, and he represents moral courage for me. So,
Mm.
Prof, if I missed anything, just drop it and
Love
let's
it.
have this conversation.
I think you've exaggerated a little bit on the side. My
No, I
contribution to
haven't.
end the party. Okay, I think just give me that one a little bit lower.
You did. I mean, you were in the unions, you were the leader in the movements. I mean,
Amazing.
you advise incredible people all across the world and share the Ubuntu values. I mean, that's what you do, right? And you do it beautifully. So don't give me your humility. Give me your facts. Prof, we could start then maybe by you just sharing why did you start the Democracy Fund for Democracy Works?
I mean, it was important. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very grateful. I'm very happy to have the conversation with friends. And I'm looking very forward to this conversation. I think if you remember during the presidency of Jacob Zuma, I mean, really there was a sense of hopelessness in the country. There was a capture, what we call state capture, the corruption of democratic institutions, of our democratic values, the capture even of policies, good policies like affirmative action or black economic empowerment is supposedly empower the disadvantaged. There was even the capture or the corruption even of speech. People didn't know anymore what is truth, what is and what is fiction, what is fake. Even the slogans that we were used to in the past, during the anti-apartheid era, which motivated us and which held us together. The struggle songs, which was very important for us. Even those things were corrupted. We can imagine that people were even corrupting struggle songs and use these for purposes to cover up corruption. I mean, it was incredible, and it was just a sense around the country that the values when we put together the new South Africa after the end of apartheid, after a moral struggle to bring an end to apartheid, with moral leaders like former President Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu used to be the General Secretary of the ANC, Oliver Tambo, and Albert Lutulu won the Nobel Prize after the Second World War. Those kind of moral figures, and then suddenly we had the likes of former President Jacob Zuma. I mean, moral pygmies. If I have to make the comparison, And I thought one way to help stem the tide of the democratic decline in the country is to set up an organization that would campaign to strengthen democratic institutions, to provide a content to ordinary citizens, the democratic arguments, because at the same time as the state capture of the country, there was also a capture of the argument for and against democracy, where people even rejected our constitutional democracy, and rejected our democracy and tried to make an argument for alternatives, other governance systems, gang governance systems, traditional leaders as governance systems, your customary law, which it's like a war against women. If your customary law where men are more equal than women. So the idea was to not only to create an institution to provide a capacity, but also to provide the arguments for democracy. Why is democracy so crucial in South Africa and in the African context?
That's beautiful. I mean, it actually does advance those mandates. So I told you, a man with moral courage. He doesn't hold back. That's the kind of man that I love. Both of you, by the way. Let's get started.
For friends like these.
That's what friends are for, right? And together we can make the difference that we're looking to make. And that's what Ubuntu is all about.
Yes.
And coming together with the right-minded spirits to drive the agendas we need to, right?
Amandla.
Where to?
No.
Okay, see now I'm sitting here in the car. You're doing this. You got to explain this to me. Now, what?
Teach the man. Come on. I mean, William is such a sought-after leader in South Africa, but not just in South Africa, abroad. People looking for advice, people looking to, he negotiates at level and he brings harmony and really makes a difference. So I'm very blessed, friends, to tap into your wisdom, but more importantly, the impact that you have in our country. Our country is very volatile at the moment, and it has been for a while. And it's institutions like William and leaders like William and a few others that are helping stabilize it, to be very frank and honest. But let's not go into politics today, because we'll be here for hours and hours. South Africa, amidst all the nonsense, is a beautiful country and is my home.
Okay.
You would agree, William, right? It is a beautiful country.
And absolutely, I mean, it's a wonderful country, and it's just that unfortunately the leaders that we've got, really some very terrible leaders. But it also has to do with us, the kind of leaders that we elect also, and that we put our trust in, and really a part of our transformation that we need is for people to begin to vote differently, for people to stop voting based on the past. And I think that's what we're struggling in the country. So we make decisions, many South Africans, not all, make decisions based on the past. So you vote for a leader who may be corrupt, incompetent because of the person's struggle credentials during the apartheid era. So whether the person has changed now, become now corrupt or populistic, people don't look at at leaders' current performance. And that maybe is quite important from a developing country point of view, because we are one of the reasons why, we often talk in South Africa about that the state is failing.
Prof, is that beautiful dog of yours making a noise on the outside? It's okay.
That's my neighbor's dog.
Oh, damn. That's okay. We have no control over that.
My dog is well trained.
Ooh. I hope your neighbor doesn't see this talk.
And he's listening to this podcast very quietly. And if he disagrees, he gives like 2 bars.
Oh no. Okay, cool. No, but your point taken. People don't vote with the head, they vote with the heart and affiliation, and we tend to condone behavior that we should actually not. Okay, we're going to move into some exciting bits about you, right? You're an author, you write amazing books. A few of them were bestsellers. So tell us a bit of that and what actually started it.
Before I go there, can I just say one thing that I wanted
You
to
can
say?
say whatever you want,
Like
darling.
just one line. One of the reasons why we're struggling as a country, now normally people say we are part of our country, part of our government of state has failed. So parts of it, other parts are working
Yes.
perfectly, parts of it have failed, but also parts of our society have failed. And that is quite crucial. So, the parts of our society have failed and we've been unable to provide leadership. So if one talk about a failed state, one could almost talk about parts of a failed society. And a big reason why we're there and also a big reason why we're struggling with the failed part of our society is that we are very traumatized. We're a traumatized society, traumatized by colonialism, slavery, apartheid, and even white South Africans who are supposedly more privileged are also, I think they're also traumatized. Now, in traumatized societies like our country, we need different kinds of leaders, much more quality type of leaders, more, I think, almost empathic leaders, more feminine leaders. And feminine could be whether you're male or woman. There's no gender related to feminine leadership, but strong leaders, and more caring leaders, because in traumatized societies, people often vote for people that goes against their own interests. People, they vote for leaders that will behave and act against their interests because they look at the leaders' past, or whether the people are the same color as them, or they look like them, or they speak like them. But even if those people are actually totally incompetent and corrupt, and even at a personal level, if we, people that come from traumatized societies, we often also make personal decisions, intimate decisions that goes against our interests, who we choose to be, for example, our life partners, our boyfriends, our girlfriends, our partners, which goes against our own interests. And that is why in our kinds of societies, traumatized societies, we really need leadership that can transcend their trauma. And that is perhaps what we've been missing. We had Nelson Mandela was a leader like that, of course, and Desmond Tutu was a leader like that, and we've been struggling to get those kind of, let's call it trauma, leadership for societies in trauma, to take societies in trauma out of the trauma.
Trust me.
So I have a question, because this is very interesting to me, sitting over in the United States, because if you follow the news, you see that we got some issues going over here, and has a lot of issues that we're struggling with. But you talked about your failed society. Society is struggling over there. What do you see that's happening right now, or should be happening, to help cultivate the next generation of leaders for your country?
And then, unfortunately, so we don't. Unfortunately, that's certainly one of our big problems. And Democracy Works was essentially set up as, to help that effort. I mean, our flagship program in South Africa, and of course, we now in 8 countries outside South Africa, but our flagship program is we've got a leadership.
William, if I must just interject, the Democracy Fund, William is the executive chair and he founded it.
Democracy Works Foundation.
Democracy Works Foundation. So he's talking about the initiative that he's co-founded. Just to clarify. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll repeat. Democracy Works Foundation, which I founded. Not co-founded, which I founded. Democracy Works.
I thought you did with the other guy, but no.
Very important to say. There's a confusion. So Democracy Works Foundation. So one of our flagship programs is a leadership academy. So what we do is we get some of the best young people across the country competitively. They apply every year, and between 18 and 30 years old. They don't have to have a degree or anything. So what we want from them is we want them to show us they have started something in their community. It could be anything, it could be a business, could be a social movement, a political party, that they've done it. And then we bring them in, and then we do training that spans different dimensions. And one of it is, leading oneself, leading in one's intimate space, conflict resolution, because in our kinds of society, in fact, any society, are full of conflicts. It's full of, say, how do you, as a leader, do you manage conflicts? And then how do you manage your own personal conflicts with others in your own personal space? We've got a spiritual dimension, and spiritual is not religious, but how do you build your power from within? You center your power from within, and the power doesn't depend on physical power or power of money, or power of sort of political power because people vote for you, but from within. Then we have some of the technical things that leaders need. How do you manage your personal finance? How do you manage a business or a project or political party, a project? And then we link people to mentors across the country. So, for example, if you've started a business in a rural town, we link you up with, let's just say, a CEO, a chairperson of a big business. And the idea is we try to link you up with someone that we would hope would become a figure for life in your journey, and that you would be able then to use the person's networks also. Not only the person's skill sets, but the networks, and so on. And there's a formal part of it when people, when they finish, they actually graduate and they get a certificate from the University of Pretoria.
Nice. Love it.
So you don't mind me sharing me with William, right? Because he's a great man doing great stuff. So that's what I'm drawn to.
I'm a little jealous, but on just this time you can.
Zulu Ed, William, do you know how the name came about? It was like on our first year, let me just go and say, I'm very blessed to have both these intelligent men serving as advisory board members on a foundation called Each One Hold One that supports women primarily, but humanity as a whole. So thank you for your service. On that meeting, Sam Marshall. So I go, Ed, meet your girlfriend Melissa, and meet your girlfriend Tina, and meet your girlfriend Luck. So he goes, is he a Zulu? Because he's got so many girlfriends. And I was like, yes, Zulu Ed, my new boyfriend.
Not a Zulu, like allied to the Zuma faction of
No,
Zulu.
not the Zulu faction. It's Zulu Ed with multiple girlfriends. But all our meetings are fun, right? Because we believe in working hard, playing hard, executing, and making a difference to lives. I mean, William just demonstrated how he's building leadership but to take over. Because currently we do battle with people in position not being able to execute because they don't know how. They spend time either in exile, they spend time in prison, they have no know-how how to manage other people's money, or no courage to stand against or deal with conflict resolution, and therefore we are where we currently are. So we just need to change the narrative. So thank you for the work you do, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about, what else do you want to talk to us about? There's so much to talk about. Share with us.
I think most probably, the biggest event for me that has been the last couple of years and which has totally changed me is that for 2.5 years, I've been undergoing chemotherapy. So 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with end-stage cancer in the bone and bone marrow, spleen and the lymph nodes. And I'm very grateful that I'm officially in remission. And I think cancer brought me so many gifts, and I'm so grateful for the gifts that cancer brought me. So cancer was a gift. And one of the things, for example, that it brought me was just during my own journey, the treatment journey, I've had such care from people, where they're healthcare workers or even the security guards, at oncology chambers, and so on. So the care of people and the care of friends and the care of people I actually only met during my treatment. And I think what it did for me was reminded me what we want in society also is a caring society. It's a society where we care for others, no matter whether they look different or speak different or were in different trenches during the anti-apartheid struggle. And that is the missing link in societies in trauma. A very important part of leadership then in our societies, trauma-based societies, is to instill caring for others as part of the ethos of leadership and compassion for others. So not only caring because, well, you're a nurse or a medical doctor and that is your professional obligation, but caring without any need to a professional obligation or need.
Caring with no expectations is just because they want to. That's like the foundation of Ubuntu, isn't it, friend?
Yeah.
It is, and it seems to be missing. Not seems, it has in South Africa especially. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it's so beautiful to hear how you reframe it and how you see it as a gift. And would it be fair for me to say it is your perspective that's actually what you, I mean, your level, it was quite traumatic, right? And I'm sure managing, when you got the news, it must have been a shock of note, right? How did you manage to deal with it? I mean, being a dad and having get the news and the fact that you had all the caring people around you, what do you think helped you through it more than the care? Was there anything else?
Yeah, I think firstly, I mean, I just have overwhelming gratitude to the people I called it in my field, my energy field, in my surrounding, in my support group. I don't even want to call it support group. In my energy field, whether I knew them before or afterwards during the journey. And I think, and I'm very grateful um, for the advice I got from people, and one important advice, which was very, very crucial to me, was the idea that to heal involves many, many things. It doesn't not only involve medicine, but it also involves dealing with past trauma, personal trauma, um, dealing with toxic relations, um, and dealing with the issues of our past that's in our subconscious, and that is part of the healing process. And I thought perhaps the lessons for me and the gifts um, um, from cancer, and as I looked at society broader, is can we create or foster in South Africa a mass healing of individuals? If one argues that apartheid and colonialism and slavery has brought trauma and broken individuals, how do we then have, as part of transformation of the society, as part of the empowerment of the society, as part of building a democracy, how do we then provide individuals with a tool to deal with their own brokenness, um, and to heal, and maybe rather more positive, how do we heal as individuals, and how do we create a mass movement to heal people at the individual level? And that healing, I think, brings a combination of certain things, combination of the best in African traditions, the best in traditions of all South Africa's communities, Ubuntu, where Buddhism or Confucianism, the best of all of those values. Of course, all values, all of our traditional values, they're not perfect. Some we just have to discard because they are totally inappropriate,
It's
they're
about taking the
undemocratic.
good from each.
Yeah, to take the good, and so on. And as part of this democratic journey, so the democratic journey is not just about the formal institutions, the voting. It is also a journey from within, healing as individuals, healing from the trauma of the past to be better uh, people or persons is a very, very big part. And I think in our kinds of societies, not only in South Africa, but in other societies that came from violent legacies, whether in Africa or in other developing countries, that kind of democratic healing is often, the importance of it is often not realized.
And it's critical though, because I mean, in order to be able to be the best version of yourself, you have to heal yourself. Because if you choose not to, you carry so much baggage and anger, and you can only give what you have. So if you have anger to give, if you feel angry and hate, you're going to give anger and hate. If you feel love and kindness, you're going to give love and kindness. It's not you've made such a powerful points, my friend. But I don't think it's just locally based here in South Africa. It
Yeah,
has the ability to heal the world.
heal the world. Absolutely. Professor, I just want to say, first of all, I'm so glad to hear that you're in remission. Thank you. You just said so much, unpacked so much. We could spend all day on just some of the things that you just talked about. But cancer is not just in South Africa. It's not just in America. It's global. And I love how you framed it, saying it was a gift, because it made you think about a lot of different other things. For someone that might be listening or even watching this, that is either going through cancer or have a loved one that's going through cancer, can you just give them a message, um, to just share with them a message of hope, light, love? Because I think everybody needs it. We need to hear those positive words, especially when we're in the midst of a storm.
No, absolutely. I think, of course, cancer is devastating. It's frightening, and when I got the news, it was absolutely frightening, and especially in the context where there may be a timeline on your life, and you will be given a timeline. It makes it frightening. It makes it frightening for everyone around you, and I think is. Even in that context, to think about healing in a holistic way, to say, of course, a really important part of the healing is, the medicine part of it, but to think of healing in much more broader context of healing, and to look at medicine also in a much more broader context. So where medicine would include also how one eats. That's part of the healing. Eat differently, as eating as medicine, or detoxifying one's body from the toxic people around oneself. It may even mean that one has to divorce one's family,
Yeah.
or one's intimate
And it's not a
partner
joke.
if they are toxic. So it is almost that a body tells you that you have to change. You have to change everything about 360-degree change. You have to go back, into your past, into your childhood, look at the trauma, deal with things, and maybe very, very importantly, is maybe to look at life not in terms of years, a chronological years, but to think of at life at what you're doing on a daily basis. I mean, in my life now, of course, is very much on a daily basis, and not to think of. I mean, I had a friend who said to me on the day when I was diagnosed. I went to after I heard the news. I went to my favorite coffee shop, and I told what I'm going to do. Stiff whiskey. I was like, oh, a cappuccino. Get my head straight on what we're going to do. Like, give me the best bottle of my favorite red wine, Pinot Tart, or it's going to be miserable. And she said to me something so profound, my friend Hawa Khan she said something so profound. As she said, look, it is, one has to look at life as a journey, that not in numerical, and but what is done here on earth, and look at it that way. And people would be there 100 years, but are absolutely not engaged with others around them. Haven't lived a connected life or a loved life, or engage with others in the humanity practice, Ubuntu, or similar kind of inclusive, yeah,
So,
carrying.
what she was getting at, some people just exist, they don't actually live. And it's
Mhm.
about living life to the fullest on a daily basis. And it may what I'm going to say, Prof, my boyfriend, may come across a little bit harsh, but the fact is, the fear for you was largely because your kid's a little young. But you've lived, though, right? I mean, you've accomplished so much in that 50 years you've been in existence. Um, so, whereas I know a lot of people that have been here for 80, 90, or 100 years, they don't live purposefully, they just exist. And that's what she was driving. Um,
Now, that is very
and
important. I mean, is a purpose, to live a purposeful life, but
full
also
life.
what also for me was very important is to forgive, and to forgive. It is so important because for me that's part of the healing: to forgive, to forgive, to forgive. And it's very, of course, is much more pressing in a South African context where we have a past where one group dominated another group. So forgiveness in this context, but we also have forgiveness at the individual level, because when we grow up in traumatized societies, these are hard societies, in family, often in the family space, often pretty harsh. At a community space, very, very harsh. I mean, in South Africa, particularly, is a very violent country, and it's also a traumatized societies, are often very violent societies. But it's important to forgive and not to live in the past,
Oh, yeah.
to heal. I think a big part of healing at an individual level, as a political level, as a country level, is forgiveness. Not forgetting, but to forgive.
Learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Forgive, because if you choose not to forgive, you'll always be the prisoner. You'll always be imprisoned by that experience. And I think what I've mastered, and I can say it so beautifully, besides being the ambassador for love, light, and kindness, is forgiveness. Often people go like, how could you forgive? I was like, darling, if I don't forgive, I'm going to be the prisoner, not them. Release, let go, but don't be afraid to release the relationship. Let them flow out of your life.
Mhm.
That's
It's
that's the that's the art
it's
of
it's, it's very
living a
important.
beautiful
Yeah.
life.
Absolutely, to detox, and detox means also detox from other people. Detox, from organizations, because organizations can also be toxic to you.
Oh yeah.
Your partnerships, whether it is your intimate partnership, will also be toxic. Your family may be toxic to you. Your culture may be toxic to you. Cut it
You
out.
have
If
to
you need
have
to.
that awareness, the courage, the strength to stand your ground, because it's not an easy decision. And once you can and know who you are and what you want and how much you love yourself, it's very easy for you to make those decisions and spend, as my husband says, allow anyone to rent any space in your brain, because the only people that rent space in my brain is people that matter, and they're
You know,
on the screen.
so this is really interesting to me, because I actually am dealing with someone right now that is struggling dealing with a toxic person that is extremely close, family member that is extremely close to them, trying to just wean themselves off this person. And they know every time they speak with them, they can only talk to them for a little while. But the person is like, so I'll just say it's the person's mother. And trying to deal with this toxic individual and trying to release this individual out of their life because they just bring so much toxicity. It's a challenge for them. And I when I talk to them, I'm like, I get it. This person is your mother, but if they're sapping your energy, and your spirit, I don't care if it's your mother, I don't care who it is, you need to push yourself away.
Absolutely. I mean, it's radical self-care, and radical self-care may mean, and that's a very big part of healing, may mean that you have to divorce your parents if that's what you need to do, or your family members, your siblings, if they provide the toxins, that makes you ill. And then I think, um, for me, what cancer did, and one of the gifts, is to make that assessment as an evaluation of, who in my, whether it's in the intimate space, in the family space, or the broader space, what should I get rid of to detoxify in order to heal? And for me, it was, to the acceptance that that process of healing, radical healing, even if it only gives you another 6 months to live, when you pass on, you are a healed person, and that is what is so important.
Oh, did I tell you I love you?
You didn't tell me that today. No.
I love you both. But that was power as to what came out of it. It's about
Yeah.
when you leave free. You've done what you have to do. You close the chapters, close the books. It's about you and your gift to the world. That's what you said is so powerful, Prof. It's like, if people only believe in themselves and the confidence and appreciate what is it, or get to know what is it that they're here to do, and do it without being held down by anybody or restricted, the world will be that kinder, more beautiful, more amazing space with less toxic situations on a personal level, community level, country level, and the world, because we're all battling on so many levels.
And especially with COVID now. I mean, what COVID brought us, really, we've seen so much grief, so many people die, so many people being ill, and I think what it brought to us was, I think the fact that it's important for me is to consciously love also. To love others consciously, those that you love consciously on a daily basis, to consciously do the things you do, and that brings the purpose, and that is very important, and it is also a very important part of healing, whether it's cancer or anything else, or even recovering from a close family member or a partner, or a friend, who died, whether it's cancer, whether it's COVID-19. How do you grieve, and how do you move on? And then a big part of that recovery and moving on is the conscious living thereafter.
Purposeful living. I mean, there's so many pearls of wisdom he's just dropped. Like,
Well, trust me, I'm sitting over here writing, taking notes.
I mean, I've got radical healing. I've got
Radical self-care, consciously love. Yes. I love the consciously love part. That right there just speaks volumes to me.
That is.
That is important, and often really for people like you and me, who are very conscious.
Ed or me?
Both of you. Who are activists and driven by your heart to do good, wherever you can, is to have the self-care is very important, and a radical self-care, because if you deplete it, you cannot do the work that you have to do. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was asked extraordinarily to spend 2 days with a group of South Africans who, how do I describe them? A couple of years ago, there were political assassinations in KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. Absolute violence and political assassinations and so on at a big scale in the former, what we call former hostels, former compounds in the KwaZulu-Natal province. And then also, but there were people there, community people, who took it upon themselves to actually mediate in the violence, who were part of the community. And it was extraordinary. So the violence would have been worse if it wasn't for those people. And then also during over the same time, and on the Cape Flats being, bloody gang violence, and also again locals, where it's young people, where it's pensioners and so on, negotiated and try to bring peace when the state failed, when the police failed, when the democracy failed, democratic institutions failed. And I was then asked to spend a weekend out in the countryside with people who've been doing that across the country, dealing with those sort of traumatic events and violence and the taxi violence and so on, and to pep talk them. And to talk, how do you, if you emerge in the violence and you are trying to stop it and prevent it and so on, that it doesn't impact on you as the individual? How do you build resilience as yourself, and how do you do the self-care for yourself? And then secondly, if the state fails, which was very important for me, at a local level or at a national level, whether it's the police, and so on, how do we build resilient communities? How do we build communities that could actually respond if there's state failure? The police are not present, or there are no social workers. There's no public infrastructure. So how can one bring communities together and make those communities resilient, and use all the resources among them, whether it's human resources, skills, and so on, and build resilient communities?
That is such a powerful statement you're making, right? But let's go back to when we were growing up, right? In the townships and the communities. Didn't you find there was more community awareness and care? When I did something wrong, before I even got home, there was another mother hitting me or shouting at me to put me right. And they would phone or scream across. Before I got home, I got a hiding here and I got a hiding there, because we took accountability for other people's children. And when we saw wrong, the elders corrected it. And that was the Ubuntu principle: family, like we do good, and it's a ripple effect.
That's not just in South Africa. It's the same thing here. When we were younger, if I did something down the street and the neighbor saw me, that neighbor's going to get on me. And then before I got home, my mom knew, and I was walking. I didn't know what I was about to walk into when I walked in the house. But I'm sitting here like, oh God, this is where I used to have hair.
It's like in the 1980, when we had the floods, William, 1988, when it like really flooded, right?
Yeah, I know.
But I was a tomboy, so I had to practice my volleyball. So the river was flowing. There was a pipe across. I'm telling my friends, I'm going across. Decided to walk on it. Fell into the water. Tumbled, almost drowned. My other friend came in, helped, do whatever, right? So I thought nobody knew. I go home instead of my mom like going, shame. I was 18. Shame. She almost drowned. I got such a hiding because my white bra was brown, like because of falling into the. It was things like that. We don't have that anymore. We live in our fenced homes, don't care. Our priority is just us and our family. So we don't have that community spirit that we need to build to take accountability as a whole for our failing country, failing state, failing whatever. Don't you find that? Or am I just...
No, absolutely. I think so. What has happened in our society clearly is that when the ANC came to power and now Black South Africans were now in charge, those who were left behind in the townships were just left behind in the townships. So, if you were not politically connected to the ANC, you're not going to make it. You're going to be left behind. You're on your own, essentially, because many. So we absolutely lost the care. And remember, during the apartheid era, there were not many rich blacks. There was a equality. So what has happened now in the country? The end of apartheid has brought inequality also between black South Africans. So in the past, it was a black and white inequality. Now, of course, we still have black and white inequality, of course, but now we also have a layer of black South Africans who are as rich or close, have the same sort of high incomes and assets than white South Africans. So now what we have inequality now between those who have, whether they're white or black, and those who don't have, which is of course predominantly black, although a small number of white South Africans and have also become poorer as part of that level, and in countries, because was this last week we were said to be the most unequal country in the world. But the thing about inequality, there's a thing about inequality, is that in unequal societies, it makes democracy also very difficult. Because those who are left out, who are unequal, feel they don't have a stake in the game of democracy. It's not working for them, it's working for other people. That is why we see in a country, we often see when people protest in townships, when they protest against failed government services, corruption, and so on, they often burn down infrastructure, their own infrastructure. And we wonder, why would you do that? Because if you burn down the library, well, tomorrow there's no library, and you just make it worse. You make the inequality worse. But that is what inequality does, and that is why it is so important for societies. And so, one of the biggest mistakes, one of the biggest failures, I think, the ANC as a government since 1994 is that it did not govern, and still does not govern, in the widest interest of everyone, not just in the interest of those who are connected to the party. So, because if you only govern for certain people who are party members or who are connected in the leadership, you actually make inequality worse. You now just racialize, take out the black and white inequality, and now you have inequality of those who have. And that is why, if you look at the societies, and I'm coming out with a book later in the year on looking at 5 societies after the Second World War that have done better than other developing countries, and includes Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and so on. So in Southeast Asia. Now, what they've done and what changed the game is that those governments brought all of society with them in the transformation. And that's a crucial thing. So everyone was in the transformation. Everyone was taken along, and everyone benefited out of the transformation, rather than just the leadership of the party or the membership of the party.
And there was a no tolerance to corruption, right?
And absolutely no tolerance to
That
corruption,
was
because
especially in Singapore and things, it was like,
absolutely.
no, we don't care who you are. The law is equal to all. I mean, just today, I'm not even going to go there about one of the rulings, but we this is a conversation for another day. No, there's so much value and there's so much wisdom. When I said I'm in love with his mind, do you get me, Ed?
Yeah. I'm
There's
sitting
so
here
much
soaking all in. That's why I'm not saying a lot. I'm sitting here
I'm so blessed. I'm just grateful to love,
But
love is good.
But you talk
Actually,
about
maybe
not just loving. I've been like this kid that was full of love from the time I was little. Like, I'm a hugger. The most difficult thing I had to face was COVID, where I go in for everybody, like even a stranger in the streets, like I'm having a conversation and talking. So love is a drug. And you know what also helped him heal? Let me tell you, Ed. It's music. We're both music lovers.
Yeah.
But I was talking about love, maybe in a sense of traumatized societies, we also might have to look at love differently. Because traumatized, part of the healing really is radical love. Also. Not only conscious love, the way we love others, not only those who are family members and our
It's
friends,
just
but the
there.
way we love others,
Yes.
the way we care for others. And that is actually what is broken down. And that is why we have a broken society. Because if you have a violent society, it's really a breakdown of love for others. And also not for others, but a breakdown of love for yourself.
For yourself.
Because once you love yourself, you begin to love others. You begin to love your community. You begin to love your country.
And it's contagious. Love is flippin' contagious, and you have the ability to shine the light no matter where and how. That's the power of love. So when I coined the phrase "I am the change and free," it was really to tell every single individual, nobody's going to come change you. It's about will. It's about I am going to take accountability and change the situation no matter what. Like the way you took accountability for your cancer and healing. Only you can. We can just help you through it. Even changing the country.
I,
Only.
I go ahead, Charmaine.
No, I get passionate and crazy, so
Yeah,
just stop me.
I love somebody's hair. Yeah, it's just really,
Oh yeah, I'm a little, I'm
it's
a
so
little
beautiful. It's
because
just
I
so
can't say
beautiful.
fine, really. We started talking
And I
about
had a hair issue when I was little because people touched my
yeah.
hair. I can't do it.
You started talking about love and loving oneself. And I think that is one of the biggest issues in our society right now is we have so many people that don't love themselves.
Mm.
So many people are looking at, I'm glad I'm a little older and I didn't grow up in this age right now of social media where you're looking at everything that everybody else is doing, what they have, how they're traveling, and not just loving what you have and who you are and who you were created to be. I think as a society, if we can teach our young people and even some of our older people how to genuinely love themselves first, I think it will start to heal our communities, heal our countries, and heal the world. Loving each other first, and then that love will eventually pour out into everybody else.
And it's such an
Absolutely. I mean,
easy,
I
cheap
agree with
thing
you
to
fully.
do, right? It
Mhm.
costs us nothing to love yourself. First, you have to heal the trauma and go through the process because you
Yeah.
can't have this fake love. So take accountability for that journey. And then it's like, it's free to love. It's free to be kind.
Yeah.
It's free to make the world a better place. And
Yeah.
this is what's
But dealing with the trauma starts with self-love.
absolutely.
You can't deal with trauma until you begin to love yourself and love who you are, and love your uniqueness.
Oh,
The gifts that you have is so different, and just love that, and
I
then it
love,
becomes easier to deal with trauma also.
I, may I share a personal story?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when I was around, like talking about loving yourself and how important that is, and you come from well, you have various backgrounds, but being a professor and things, and the impact teachers actually have. I'm echoing. Can you guys hear me echo, or is it just me?
You're fine.
No, no, okay, you have eco, yeah?
Okay, cool. So I think it was about 10 years old. We had a teacher that came to our school, and at that stage, I was a tomboy. Like sunscreen hat was not a thing for me. I was like dark, right?
And did you save your hair totally as part of it?
No, I was like flipping dark, but most of the kids were dark. I was playing soccer, climbing the trees, poles, whatever. That was the way we kind of grew up, right? So she comes in there and she goes, "Why are these children so black in this class?" And I was like, "Oh, we black." And it created a thing like, what's wrong with being black? So that's the impact it has on color when we look up or respect people when they don't watch their words, is what it can do in kids. The other issue, I mean, I have curly hair. Growing up in an Indian community, I had to like put up with them putting oil in my hair, pulling it straight because I needed to look Indian because I grew up in an Indian community. Why do I wear this bush and this mane? Is because this is me. So this is the way, not rebel. I just love my curls, wild and all. So the point I'm making is just embrace being you, and whoever's listening to it, just watch your words around children, because words have power. Our children don't come up hating each other. They come up loving and all of that. It's us that actually influence that level of how they turn out to be, hating different groups, different people, different hair textures, different colors. So, and you said something so powerful that I need to just say it. If I have to go back in time, I'll spend more time telling youngsters, don't invest your energy in wanting to fit in. Invest your energy in being unique you, because that's where value and individually comes
Yeah.
in.
Absolutely.
If you
Also,
have to go,
oh,
if you have to go back and say something, what would it be, you two darlings, to the world, to your 18-year-old selves?
Ooh. Professor, I'll let you go first.
I must tell you, as I struggled as someone who was, I felt I was an outsider throughout, born Zulu, and then growing up initially in the Eastern Cape and then the Southern Cape, sort of, and apartheid unfortunately also created ethnic communities where you are now bracketed as different, not just as you black and so on, but you now bracketed as an ethnic community and so on. And then afterwards, when I was much more older, I went to a school which was predominantly um, colored South Africans. And so on. So I always felt, or made to feel, and I had to really fight with these and never have to go back to myself. I had to say, embrace who you are, and because you are different, that makes everything exciting. And so on. And I do remember also, it's not only that, but I did things that didn't really make sense for people. Uh, so it didn't conform. I just tell you, it didn't. And then I felt also out of it because people say, why would you do that? Zulus don't do things like that. Why would you do things like that?
I can relate to
What's
that.
wrong with you? And then when I was, of course, when I was an adult, if you Google me and see all the criticism against me, even at university, it was just like, "Oh, you're a coconut." I was like, why do you? So,
Because people want us to fit in. And I think that's why we've turned out to be rebels. It's because we've lived, as much as I had friends, I was always felt alone in my thinking, in my actions. I would do
Mhm.
stuff where people would no. I was like, I'm doing it.
yeah.
We live once.
So the moral of the story is, for myself, don't listen to the criticism of others.
Yeah.
Don't conform. Um, stay in your views and stay in your authenticity. Stay in it, live it, own it, and own your views, own your difference. That's very important.
Absolutely. I love it. And
Absolutely
now,
right.
oh, that is so powerful. I'm just loving this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, Zulu Ed, what is it that you would go and say
So,
to youngsters?
I grew up, I was always the very skinny kid. I'm very insecure, but I never let anyone know it, and shy. And I would tell my 18-year-old self is, you are enough and you have purpose beyond your comprehension.
Absolutely.
Because at 18 years old, I'm waffling. Where am I going? What am I doing? And I was thinking, and honestly, I was more selfish than I was selfless. So I would tell myself, you have purpose, and that purpose is to serve others as much as you can. I always tell people the same thing is, early in my life, I was all about trying to climb the corporate ladder and get where I can get and stock options and all that stuff. But this second half of my life, I'm all about being purposeful and serving other people. And I always tell people I'm on a journey to serve as many people as I can before I leave this earth. So, because all the stuff that you accumulate, when you go, you don't know where that's going. But if you serve someone, that person will always remember you that, there was a time I was down and Ed just sowed some life into me by just his kind words. That will live on forever. So, you are enough. and you have purpose beyond your comprehension. That's what I would tell my 18-year-old self.
So now I'm going to tell you also as part of that. So I had a period when I was a teenager where I only dressed in black. So every day for a very long time. So now you're in a township.
Do you know what's my favorite color,
What
darling?
is wrong with
Black is my favorite color. It's like people would ask, "Do you only have black clothes?" It was, yeah, because black is beautiful. Just embrace
Wow.
it.
Oh.
It's about making statements in ways that make sense to you. Nobody really
Absolutely.
gets it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was like, "Are you a Satan follower?" I was like, "Some days." Pushing my buttons. It's like I spent very little time explaining myself. As long as I knew where I was going, I was like, I stayed my lane, even with the criticism. And people saw me as like, she thinks too much of herself. And I didn't care what they think, as long as I was serving Ed from the time I was little. I used to take my sandwiches because people were poorer than I was in school and give it to them because I knew I was going to go home and get
Wow.
food. And my mom would go, "But I gave you sandwiches. Why are you so hungry?" Because it was because I gave my sandwiches. It was things like that. So if more of us, like every single one of us, wake up every day to do one act of kindness, imagine how beautiful our world would be. Whether it's a smile, whether it's a listening, or whether it's just simple things, and that's all
It
we
could be
need
a
to do
hug.
and pour into the world.
A lot of people underestimate the power of just a simple hug.
Oh yeah.
That human, I think a lot of us crave human, touch, that hug. There's been people I watched my wife hug this 80-year-old lady, and the lady like melted in my wife's arm.
Yes, yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I just in my own journey now. I had a very, very close friend who's very dear with me, who died for me, who died last May of breast cancer, Tasni Pariachi. And we became very close. Although we were friends before, we became much more closer because both of us were undergoing chemotherapy, and that was one of the things that held us together, and so on. And that friendship, and she used to call it, she told her family, she called me her connection to her family. So it was kind of weird, like that connection with her. Um, I learned, because I don't want to call it I relearned, because I afterwards understood actually that in traumatized societies, when we grow up, the touching others, to comfort, um, is not often embraced, or is not a thing, because if you grow up like I grew up in a very patriarchal way, but patriarchal society, patriarchal culture, where men are not supposed to show their feelings or cry. And I was the eldest, and I can tell you, I was told over and over again, like, "Well, you're the eldest, you're in charge, no crying, show your strength, chill out," and so on.
Suck it up. You're a man.
You're a man, yeah.
It's very difficult.
And how the importance of touching is often more important in words, when you don't have to words. Just holding a person's hand, how important that is. Talking love through touching, talking appreciation through touching, and talking care through touching. How important it is, and how I actually afterwards felt like it was almost a deprivation to be not to be taught, or not to be familiar with touching others. Not, of course, but not touching in a violent way, but touching in a caring way, and of course doing it in a dignified, in a way that doesn't offend another person, that doesn't undermine the rights of another a person. So, you know, touching with love and with care and with compassion.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow,
It's
that's powerful, powerful.
it is
Um,
indeed.
so we could go on, and I literally could sit here and listen to you all day long. I mean, I got a pad over here full of notes, just from pearls of wisdom that you dropped. But you know, we like to be cognizant of your time because we know that you are a busy man. But I would love if you could just, you got a megaphone and you're standing in front of the world. What message would you like to share with the world?
People need to hear you, darling. This is not a video.
Love, I think, care and compassion for others that goes across color, across race, across ethnicity, it
Social,
goes across
economic.
class. So solidarity that goes across race, color, country, class, religion, culture.
Yeah,
And and that is in our hands. It's such an easy thing to actually do.
it is.
Well, you need to learn it, brother. My girlfriend, sorry, Silhouette.
So I'm Zulu now. You know,
You need to get Zulu, boy. Oh,
black enough.
this is quite a powerful sign. Do you realize this, Ed?
I
Right?
know, it's very powerful.
So you do know that that was a sign when you held your fist up, in the 60s and the 70s for African Americans in the States. That was a sign, Black Power.
Yeah.
And you saw some of our Olympic athletes do it and get banned immediately. And you just saw a lot of African American pride and African pride in the States by doing this. I mean, we've gone away from it a lot, but you'll see a few people still do this, as a sign of, you know, I'm Black and I'm proud.
But that's largely it. We're black, proud, but we are lovers of all people.
Yes, without a doubt.
It's just we are proud as to where we've come from. We are proud as to what we've achieved, and we are just proud as to what we can pour into the world to make our world a unified world. I mean, William, Ed, and I, the reason we're on the screen because the mission and the goal is to be able to leave this world better than we found it. Right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a
That's
doubt.
the goal. And so Prof, you know I love you to the moon and back. And Ed, Zulu Ed, I love you to the moon and back.
Yeah, we love
need
you
to have
too.
more.
You have to make a choice, all right? You have to make a choice.
Yeah, I'm a girl that's got lots of love to give. So, and that's what I'm going to be doing, right? So we're going to get you back. We have to.
Definitely. Oh,
This
definitely.
has been phenomenal because he does, besides writing intellectual books, he does children's books as well. So his goal is to transform kids' thinking and make this world like, there's so much power on the screen, and I'm not being arrogant when I say it. We have, collectively, we have so much to give and do. So, love and light to you.
Thank you.
Love and
Love,
light
love,
to you.
love to you.
Thank you, Professor. We appreciate
Gratitude, happiness.
you, all the stuff that you've done. To everyone that's tuned in, thank you for joining us once again. We will see you real soon. Until the next time, God bless, love, and light. And you know what? Let us know how we can serve you or your network. Take care, everybody. Have a great one.
Cheers. Bye.